Let's give 'em a reason to stand and shout. What about brain? Hey, oh, hey there, partner. How are you? Come on in, sit down, have some tea. Oh, yeah. Okay, shh. Do you hear that? That is the sound of the clock ticking moments of our life away. What do you want to do? You came here because you wanted to have a good conversation. Isn't that right? Should we just skip the small talk and get down to business? Okay, so now that we see eye to eye, what do we talk about? Yeah, I don't really know what to talk about. Is that part of the problem? So I've heard that open-ended questions are really good for kind of starting conversations. Maybe we just need to ask the right question. I wonder if there's like a single question that you could ask that's like a master key to unlocking a good conversation. Because if we can make good conversations more likely, how much better would our lives be? How many more friends could we make? How much more could we learn about the world? And besides, it just feels great, doesn't it? What's going on? I see you've got that diabolical little twinkle in your eye again. I know how your mind works. You're thinking, yeah, good conversations are like brain sex. Not a mind, partner. Brain sex. Think about it. We take turns giving and receiving. I get to plant ideas in the garden of your mind that grow into the trees of knowledge that bear the fruit of wisdom. It's so obvious. It's literally brain sex. Oh, I mean, it's metaphorically brain sex. You can't argue that logic. In fact, there's gotta be an app for that, right? There's gotta be like a Tinder for good conversations. Oh, that's a sexy idea. Swipe right. Or maybe there's a game. Card games for good conversations. Wow, I am really late to this party. There's like a dozen of them right here on Amazon. This one looks good. Skip the small talk. Make meaningful connections. Amazon Prime, same day delivery. Buy now. Okay, well, that's probably not going to help us, but maybe that'll be fun to see what other people came up with. Hello there. Did you come to have a conversation with us? Oh. So I meant to ask you before we got interrupted here to think about the last good conversation that you had. What were the circumstances? Excuse me. I'm sorry, you don't have a passport. Did it kind of progress, unfold like a good mystery novel? Or maybe it started off kind of small and innocent looking, and then suddenly became something bigger and more powerful. Evolved like a Pokemon. Well, while you think about it, let me tell you a story about the last good conversation that I had. Okay, in the style of Unsolved Mysteries. Ready? Go. It was a perfectly ordinary Thursday night. Traffic was bad that day because of the Seahawks game downtown. And when I got home, there was nothing I wanted more than to open a perfectly average bottle of wine and watch a perfectly average show on Netflix. When out of the blue, I receive a text on my phone. This diabolical device, it is Robert, a really good friend of mine that I rarely see. And he's saying his friend is having a party at a karaoke bar just 10 minutes away. And you know I have a weak spot for karaoke. So it sounds fun, right? But it also sounds like work. So I reluctantly go out. I grab my North Face jacket, venture out into the wild. And of course it's raining out, like always. And I walk into this perfectly average bar where perfectly average people are singing perfectly average karaoke. And I sit down and I start having a perfectly average conversation. You've been here 100 million times before. You know the story. How's the family? How's the dog? How's the job? News headlines, natural disasters. Listen to the clock. What are we doing here? I don't know. I have this theory that we're just probing in these moments. We're fishing for a good conversation. But you know, small talk, it's like vanilla ice cream, so we eat it up, right? Maybe we just keep eating that.
Ice cream.
Have you ever noticed that at times like these, another voice always seems to enter into the conversation? You know what I'm talking about. The monkey. Yeah, the monkey on your back. Who invited that monkey to this party? Nobody. What is the profession of this monkey? I feel like he must be some sort of neurotic, paranoid accountant, running opportunity costs, calculating expected value, criticizing all of my choices, anticipating future regret, because he just keeps whispering into your ear. How much is this going to cost? Are you going to get a parking ticket? Are you going to get enough sleep tonight to make the meeting in the morning? How much more would you be enjoying yourself if you were at home in your PJs, binge watching some perfectly average show on Netflix, than you are right now partially engaged in this perfectly average conversation? Doesn't that make you so angry? I made the decision to come out here and see a good friend who I haven't seen in a long, long time. And how am I spending my time? Am I using it wisely? How do you get this thing to shut up? That's what my neighbors are asking themselves right now. If you ask me, this monkey sounds suspiciously like what brain researchers are starting to call the default mode network. It's a series of connected regions in your brain that light up like a Christmas tree whenever you're just daydreaming, right? You're not focused on anything in particular. So here's a good example. Think about when you're in your bed and your brain is just racing and you're trying to sleep, but that voice in your head won't shut up. Default mode network. Default mode monkey. How do we turn that down a little bit? So I don't know if this is true either, but in my experience, alcohol. What luck. Cheers. So back to my conversation. I don't remember exactly what happened. There were drinks involved, but I do remember this shift in my intention to change my mindset. And I remember asking Robert this question: are human beings rational animals? And he just kind of laughed at me. And then he said, let me answer your question with a question. A bat and a ball together cost $11. The bat costs $10 more than the ball. How much does the ball cost? Don't write it down, just think about it quickly. It's a simple problem, isn't it? Well, if you're like me and 80% of other college students, you probably sort of suspiciously answered, it's $1, isn't it? And by doing so, I immediately proved his point, which is that, well, if we are capable of being rational, it's not a guarantee, because I just paid twice as much for that ball. But that's not the point of this conversation. The point is that vanilla ice cream, we started putting sprinkles on that. Some hot fudge, peanuts, whipped cream, bananas, a cherry on top. The conversation just evolved like a Pokemon. We started listening to each other and really thinking about all the implications of what each other was saying. We started taking turns. It was like Christmas morning and we were exchanging gifts. Or it was like a good ping pong match. Ideas are just bouncing back and forth, totally cash. Have you ever had that experience? I bet you have. We've had conversations like that before, haven't we? Brain sex. It's not a myth. It exists. How do we make that happen more? I'm sorry, partner. I wasn't trying to yell at you. You know how excited I get sometimes. But you're right. That's why I called you over here, to play devil's advocate. This is one experience. This is one data point. And there were a lot of different variables here. What are all the things that could have led to that transformation? Was it just random? Was it the beer? Or was it that intentional thought, that goal of changing my mindset that allowed me to sort of repel that default mode monkey on my back for long enough to start asking interesting questions and start paying attention to the answers that my partner was giving me? Amazon. Holy Swiss! The cheese stands alone. Does Amazon have their drones out already? Well, you basically have to go, so this isn't going to help us anymore, right? But I guess we didn't really even need it. Maybe asking the question about how do we have good conversations leads to a good conversation. Is that question the answer? Or maybe just questions in general. Maybe there's thousands of good questions that we could ask, and they're all different keys to unlocking good conversation. Let's check it out. These are actually pretty good. What have you witnessed that has strengthened your faith in humanity? If money were no concern, how would you lead life differently? Oh, look, here's a blank one. We can write our question on there. What questions do you ask someone if you want to have a good conversation? Oh, some of these are easy. What is the best gift someone can give to you? Ideas? What can you do today that you couldn't do a year ago? Have good conversations. What do you dream about? Thank you for asking, because this is the part of the conversation where we inspire each other. Listen. One day, we will wake up and realize that our life has passed us by. Imagine that day. What will we have to keep us company when we can't get out of bed to go out and have good conversations? So my dream is that one day I will wake up before that day and realize that I am doing everything humanly possible to spend as much quality time talking about things that really matter with the people around me who I love. One lifetime, one moment, this moment. Ask yourself this one question. Was this a good conversation? Was it in our power to make that happen? And if the answer is yes, then go out and have this conversation with at least one other person. Or tell them to come over here so that I can have this conversation with them. And who knows, maybe that translates to the conversation that we have around the nation, right? You may say I'm a dreamer. Oh man, look at the time. I know you gotta go. Make sure you go out and give them something to talk about, partner. And I'll see you next time.